All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here at the Average Bros Show. We're doing our baseball side of things today, and I had one of my buddies who I believe has a pretty good idea of baseball to come on and talk. And we're gonna do today the top 10 baseball players right now. We base it kind of like if you've ever watched MLB Network, they do the shredder. So we emphasize 2020, but because of the shortened season, we decided to do about 45% weighted towards 2020, 35 to 2019, and then the remaining for 2018. So with that, we'll get started with it. Evan, who do you have at number 10?
Hey, Nolan Arenado at number 10.
Nolan Arenado at number 10.
He's obviously a Gold Glove winner every year. Had a little bit of a down year offensively, but there's no doubt in my mind he's going to bounce back next year. But he's a solid number 10 for me.
So for me, I guess I could say it now since he actually just missed my list. The big one, he was a hard one for me to leave off because even though his like hitting was low, like I based a lot of this off of like OPS plus, and his was below 100 last year. Like that's pretty brutal, especially from
Yeah.
a I mean, and then you take into effect the Coors Field effect. So that was kind of why I left him off. My number 10,
Yeah.
and this is a pretty drastic drop from him if you looked at the list from last year. I put Christian Yelich. Um, so with him over the past 3 seasons, he's averaging like a 4.83 WAR, which is like a 5 WAR is usually what your Hall of Fame players would average. So I put him there. Obviously, he's got the 18 MVP and the 19 runner up. I think he fits in there nicely. His defense has kind of been like it's pretty brutal, so he's really only there for his bat. I think that's kind of what separated me from putting him 10 and then the person who I put 9.
Right. Okay. Yeah. With Arenado, I also have Yelich on my list. He's a bit higher, but with Arenado, yeah, his OPS plus was below average. And the thing with Coors, yeah, I mean, there is a noticeable difference with him being better at Coors. But, I was looking at his splits, and he's really not even a horrible hitter on the road, which
Yeah.
I kind of found interesting. He's not abysmal. There is a difference. He is obviously better at Coors, but, he's still productive at the plate on the road. But for 2020 was a bit of a down year for him. When I was going through this list, all the star players that were used to being star players, if they had a down year in 2020 in the 60-game season, I didn't really ridicule them for that.
Yeah.
But for the players that did super well, I gave them a big boost.
Yeah.
It kind of came at the cost of some players not being in my top 10. I was actually kind of shocked when I put it, in list form.
Yeah, no, it was pretty crazy some of the people that I ended up leading off. There were some people leaving off, and there were some people who I thought like were for sure going to be high on the list that didn't even end up making it. And then there were some people who I didn't think would be high that I couldn't put them any lower than what I did. So with
Yeah.
that, I'll go into number 9. At number 9, I put Cody Bellinger. With him and Yelich, the reason why I put Bellinger ahead of Yelich is because he's just significantly better defensively. He could play 3 positions at a premier. He might be the best defensive player like at all 3 of those positions in the league if you give him 160 games at it. So I put him over Yelich for that. The one thing about Bellinger that is why he isn't higher on this list for me is because his 2019 year really skews the 2018 and the 2020. Uh, I mean, 18 was pretty brutal after a good 17, and then 20. He was supposed to be the cleanup hitter for the Dodgers, and like, yeah, they end up winning the World Series, and like, he has a good, a better playoff than he has in the past. But I mean, he ended up batting 6th by the end of the year, and like in that lineup, a guy who's got an MVP,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. So I have him at 9. I think his moving forward, he is the center fielder. I mean, he's averaging 11.67 defensive runs saved a year from 2018 to 2020. And those numbers are pretty valuable, more so in the outfield than first base, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know you wanted to leave your just misses for later, but since we're on the topic of Bellinger, he was one of my just misses. I'm talking like number 11 or 12. Like he was like right there. He was when I made my first. I did like 7 different drafts of this list. I spent a lot of time on this. Bellinger was initially on the list, and he was kind of high for me. But I started doing more research, and yeah, I mean, he's tough to rank for me. It seems like he just jumps around year to year.
Yeah.
Rookie year, absolute stud. 2018, not a bad year, but not definitely regressed from his rookie year. And then, of course, 2019 goes absolutely insane. And then, of course, regresses again this year. But yeah, and you're right. His defense is so much better than Yelich's. It's not even that. Yelich's defense is so bad. Like when you're comparing Yelich and Bellinger, Bellinger's defense is above average.
Oh yeah,
for sure. He's an above average defender anywhere you put him. He can play outfield, he can play first base. He's versatile, and I think that's what makes him more valuable. But because he can be inconsistent, he's a just miss for me. And for my number 9, I put Matt Chapman just ahead of him.
That's interesting. Go ahead and explain that one.
Okay, so he initially was not even close to my list, but I was shocked to find when I was looking up WAR ratings from the last 3 years. I believe I was using, because it kind of differs from site to site, I think I was using Baseball Reference just to keep it consistent. I kind of prefer Fangraphs, but I was able to just do quicker research on Baseball Reference. But with Matt Chapman, back-to-back years from 18 and 19 put up 8 WAR seasons, if I recall correctly. That's insane. And his bat, I think, is obviously a little bit worse than Arenado's. Arenado's more of the elite bat. And they're both elite defenders, but Chapman is just on another level. And seeing him put up those WARs, 2 consecutive years is absolutely insane to me. And I'm a big WAR guy, and that's something I just can't ignore. And that's why he's number 9 and ahead of Arenado. I was always an Arenado before Chapman guy, but after doing some research, I think I got to put Chapman ahead of Arenado at this point.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from for sure. He's one of those guys, like if you go back and, as an Angel fan, you go back and you look at some of the years that Andrelton Simmons had in Anaheim when he was healthy, like he's putting up like 7 WARs, like 7 WAR a year. And it's like, obviously that guy can't hit. So that's the one for me. Like I know wins are wins for sure. So I could see why you inserted him there. I think he's one of the guys that, he's really on the up and up. I think that he's going to really throw some of these people, like, because I still, insert for the next one. I have a couple of older guys on the list. I mean, actually not really. Only one of them is really old, but that brings me into the next one. At number 8, I have the first pitcher, and I still gave the slot to Max Scherzer. I decided to give it to him because he averages over almost a 5.5 WAR a year from 18 to 2020. I took a little bit things into consideration. I wanted to be not so sabermetric like the Shredder is, and take into consideration a few things that I would help booster the player, but it wouldn't hurt a player's talents. And for that reason, like I have to give Scherzer a little bit of the props for what he can do in the postseason. And other than that, though, I mean, like the guy finishes second in 2018 in Cy Young and then third in 2019. I mean, he's an absolute monster. So I still think I have him in there. I would take him at 8.
Number 8, I also have a pitcher. I only have 2 pitchers on my list, but number 8 is also a pitcher for me, but it's not Max Scherzer. It's actually Garrett Cole coming at number 8. If you would have asked me last year, he's probably a top 6 for me, but kind of suffered from the home run ball a little bit this year, and that's why he comes at number 8. Scherzer is not even on my list. He's not even in a just a miss, maybe top 20, but I'm not really sure. It's not even so much Scherzer is just that much worse because he's not. It's just Garrett Cole is just on another level dominant
Yeah.
than, I mean, I don't know. It's ridiculous what this dude does every single time he's on the hill, and
Yeah.
he's just a strikeout machine. And so is Scherzer. But I feel like Scherzer every now and then gets that outing where he gets up like 7 runs in like an inning or something. But he'll bounce back the next time he's out there. But Garrett Cole, I can't remember the last time this dude has like had a bad start
Yeah.
since I don't know, since he was on like the Pirates. So he comes in at 8 for me. He's putting up the WAR. I forget the actual numbers, but I think the last 3 years he's accumulated like a 14 WAR. So on average, that's
Yeah.
per year. That's pretty darn good.
So I'm really high on. I actually have 3 pitchers on the list, and I'm really high on Garrett Cole as well. The thing for me is like, I think and I don't know if everyone realizes this, but the starting pitching in the MLB is just really not as deep as everyone like claims for it to be. Like even the guys that they say are good, it they're really not compared to some of these like superstars. Like yeah, I know they really get excited in the playoffs about like when the Dodgers are playing the Braves. Like they really get excited about a guy like Ian Anderson. It's like cool, but like who is that compared to these guys? And not every team even has what I would classify as like a legitimate ace. I mean, there's teams that I think that they have an ace and they actually don't. Like even like for example, how much of an ace can you really give a guy like Kenta Maeda or like Hyun-Jin Ryu, like those guys? How are those aces? So I think that's kind of why I decided to put Scherzer on my list is because I just viewed pitching at just a higher premium right now in the league.
Right. Right. And I guess one last note for me on Scherzer and on why he's not in my top 10 is personally, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying this is fact or anything, but I feel like he kind of showed his age a little bit this year. He was still very good, very dominant, but I think he's getting to the point where he's reaching the end of his prime, if
Yeah.
he hasn't already. And when you're talking best players right now, you're expecting those best players right now to come out next year still being the best. I
Yeah.
think Scherzer is going to regress a little bit come next. I think he's still going to be very good, very valuable still. But I think he's going to, not be the Max Scherzer we all know come
Yeah.
next year, and if not next year, maybe in the next couple of years. Unfortunately, I don't want that to happen. I hope he proves me wrong. But
Yeah. No, we'll,
yeah,
we'll see what he's got in store for sure. I think this will be a big year for him for sure. Like he's gonna want to come out of the gate strong because of how what he went through in 2020 with all of his injuries coming back and forth. So yeah, let's move on to number 7. Number 7's a guy like I don't know. I like him for sure. I'm not as obsessed with him as I think a lot of people are. But I have Ronald Acuna Jr. at number 7. Um, I'm not in on him as hard as some of just like the people who like are baseball analysts, like the 40-40 thing or like potential 50-50. Like, don't get me wrong, like that's awesome. Like that'd be so cool. But I don't really think like that necessarily would mean you're the best player in the league. It could, just depending on like the other stats that you throw in. But like even just looking at him, he's been in the league for 3 years and he's averaging a 4 WAR, and that's good. That's really good. I mean, but it's not Hall of Fame level. I'm curious to see what his future holds. I wonder if they'll pull like a little Mike Trout and like kind of take him out of the leadoff spot, not let him steal bases as much. So I'm a little curious on him, but I like just based off of where the game is driven by young people, I couldn't justify not having him in there at number 7.
yeah. Here's my thing with Acuna is this is going to sound a little bit crazy because he's obviously a stud already, but I'm still waiting for that pop year from him. He's obviously putting up insane numbers, but I'm still waiting. I feel like I feel like he could just do more. Like
Yeah.
still waiting for that true MVP season that like he's capable of it. And yeah, exactly what you're saying with the 50-50. I mean, this dude is just he's arguably the most athletic dude in the league right now, maybe next to Tatis. but he strikes out like a ton, and
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna pull like a Trout or something, where they start their career just whiffing at everything, and then just figure it out, be more disciplined. But I have yet to see that from him.
Yeah.
And instead, at number 7, I have actually Christian Yelich at
Okay.
number 7.
Yeah.
Yelich, when I was doing my version of my list, he was like number 4 at one point. He was like number 10 at one point. So I decided just to find like a good old happy medium for him and place him at 7. I don't care what he did this year. I don't care what the numbers show. There are so many things that just tell you he's still a great ball player. And I don't even have to talk about his 2018-2019 seasons. I think
Yeah.
those speak for themselves. Those are like Barry Bonds type years. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah, he's one of the
But
guys that's like really interesting for me. Like he's for whatever reason, I didn't get on the bandwagon with him. Like when he came out and blew things out of the water in 2018, people weren't surprised, and I just was like to see. And now I know people talk about it. It's funny to think about now, but like the Marlins had Azuna, Yelich, and Stanton, and they didn't do anything. And Yelich was a huge reason why they didn't do anything because he wasn't good over there. And then he just comes to the Brewers and goes off, and that's pretty much what he's done. They could what he came over in 2018, so he's done that since he's been over.
yeah, I wouldn't say he was not good on the Marlins. He was more of like because in his entire career, he has yet to have a season where he bats below 280. Well, except for this year.
Yeah,
He was just kind of like a good middle of the order bat for them.
yeah,
And then
that's what's crazy. Like, yeah, he's what the third best player on that team behind Stanton and Azuna. The last year he was in, or the second last year he was in Miami. It's just crazy.
yeah, I'd even argue. At the time, Jose Fernandez was ahead of Yelich.
Yeah, and then JT Realmuto's on that team too.
Yeah, that team could have been a dynasty.
Yeah.
Obviously, unfortunate things happened, but I want to just talk real quick about his 2020 season. How, if you just pull up his stats, you'll look right away and be like, wow, what the heck happened? But if you look more deeply, yeah, he has the low batting average, the lower OPS, but he still had an OPS plus of 111, if I recall correctly, which I find that crazy. I didn't even know that till like yesterday. I was shocked. So we know the power's still there, but if you look at his, I don't know if you're a huge fan of Baseball Savant or the hard hit rates and
the
all
hard
that.
hit percent. Yeah, where
if you look
finishes.
at that, yeah, like if you look at that for his 2020 season, his hard hit percentage was like in the 99th percentile. The average exit velocity was elite, like 98th percentile or something. His obviously his sprint speed still up. His biggest problem was just the swing and miss. That I don't know if this has always been a problem for him. I haven't really gone too deep into that, but he just had a hard time making contact with the ball. But when he did, he was still proven effective. It's not like he's getting weaker or he just lost it. He's just, I don't know. I think that was a fluke. I think he figures it out. I think he bounces back, and that's why he's number 7 for me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I know, like, I watch a lot of other baseball stuff, and a lot of, people, what they were saying is like, you're Yelich, you start the season 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, you're struggling, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, we only got 20 games left. And it's like you still struggle, you still press. Like you look at like another guy whose numbers don't really reflect the season he has, like guy Will Smith with the Dodgers, like hard hit whole year. Everyone's like, oh, he's just about to break out. He's about to break out. He's hitting it hard, and then boom, he did. And Yelich just the games ran out and didn't have enough time to catch up. It's unfortunate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So now to move on to number 6. Number 6, I have Anthony Rendon. I put him on there. I know he started off to a relatively, slow beginning of the season. But I think like 2018 and 2019 really helped him out. I took into consideration the fact that he's a World Series champion. 2019, to be honest, like I thought the writers were going to be a little bit more harsh on Cody Bellinger for having a really rough second half. And Irene Rendon is who I thought was going to win the MVP that year. Obviously, signs the big contract. He comes over. I mean, he's not the reason why the Angels didn't make the playoffs this year. So I think he comes in at 6. I could even make an argument that um, he could even be number 5 for me. But I decided to put him in there at 6. I think I mean, obviously the best third baseman in the game. Based off of those numbers, defense still plays. And hitting behind Mike Trout might sound like the easiest thing in the world, but like you have to execute, and he did. So
Right.
I think he fills in that role very nicely for them.
Yeah, I mean, what a pleasure it was to watch. As an Angels fan, what a pleasure it was to watch him. He started off a little slow, but it took him about a week to get back into it, and because he was coming off an injury. And yeah, I mean, what a pleasure. And a surprise actually watching him this year is this defense is actually very, very good. It was above average, especially for 2020.
Mhm.
I think years prior was a little more average, but this year he was borderline elite defensively. Made the fundamental plays, and made the stellar plays. Saved some runs. The bat was still there. It's like he broke a curse almost with Angel signing big contracts like that, and then just crap in the bed. He finally we signed someone and they do what they're supposed to do. So that was very exciting to see. But for my number 6, I actually have Juan Soto.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that one for sure. The reason, so he for me ended up being a just miss guy. And the only reason for that was because I couldn't take the 212 OPS plus serious, even though it was 212, just because he was hurt and the 60 game season. Like, if he would have qualified as a top 3 MVP finalist, I could have taken it more seriously, but like with that is kind of why I ended up leaving him off. I think though, don't get me wrong, like you want to invest in a player. I think that Soto might be a safer bet than Tatis. Soto is a monster. He plays a least like not as intense of a position, so he can really focus on the bat. And he's someone, if the NL has a DH, that he is going to love that. So yeah, I can see why you put him in on there. I left him off just because of me not wanting to emphasize 2020 as much. And then 19, he obviously was great. And then 18 was obviously still great too, but just kind of a smaller sample size that year.
Yeah, so yeah, the reason I put him there, I mean, yeah, he's obviously known for the bat. He's not even really bad defensively. He's just not anything special defensively, but that's fine. When you got a bat like that, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude, I mean, the best way I can compare him, he's gonna be like another. Actually, I'm not even saying that like another. He's gonna be like a better version of like Manny Ramirez, where you can't really feel, but the dude just hits.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clutch. I mean, there's not really much else I could say about him, but yeah, 2020 obviously a shortened season, even shorter for him because of his COVID tests from the year. But the dude still cranked out like how many home runs was it? I forget, but
I don't even know.
He crept up there super like just out of nowhere. But he's at such a young age, and this is what I think. This is why I think he's so special. He's 22 years old, and this dude's got the discipline of Mike Trout at the plate. This dude, he's like Max Muncy, but like able to hit better, I guess.
Yeah.
He just does not swing at a ball outside the zone. And with that means implies he's swinging at good pitches. And the fact that he's developed that skill at such a young age, just like that's just something you can't really teach. That's just discipline is something like that just kind of comes naturally for a superstar like that.
Yeah.
But I memean, he's in my mind, I think he's going to be our generation's best pure hitter. I think. I don't know if that's a bold take or not. I don't know. I feel like that's a fair take. But I mean, this dude is just he's unreal.
I think and he's one of those guys too where it doesn't surprise me that he's on your list, because then if you do what I have been doing for some of these other guys, if you take the postseason stuff into consideration and the age, he was I think he turned 21 during the World Series last year. He might have turned 20 actually, and uh, the dude's just raking, and like against the Astros, against Verlander, against Greinke, against Kershaw. I mean, like everyone, like he just ice in his veins, and I think that's kind of where I can really get behind him. I'm huge on Juan Soto, but yeah, he just didn't make it for me. At number five, I think some people might think this is a little high, but and maybe I bent out of my criteria here a little bit, but I think it's time that this guy finally starts getting a little bit more respect than just being like a 10 to 15, 10 to 20 player. And I got Freddie Freeman at number five. Um, I know I took, like kind of how we discussed before, like 2020 in my book was able to help you more than hurt you. Um, he wins the MVP in relatively easy manner over Mookie, who has a crazy year with the Dodgers. Uh, averages over a 4 WAR over the 3 years. Uh, All Star, Gold Glove winner, Silver Slug Award. And he's averaging an OPS plus 153 from 2018 to 2020. And for some people who don't understand what that means, 100's average, so that's 53, percentile above your average player, which is insane. Plus, you see what he does in like what he's done in the postseason. He's been there a lot. Um, so I think he's a guy that he's finally solidified himself for me as the best first baseman in the game, and I think he's the top five guy now.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said, I agree with, because I also have Freddie Freeman at number five.
Nice.
I mean, he got his MVP season. I think that is what truly has earned his. He's definitely earned my respect to be
Yeah.
A top five. I mean, top five already. I mean, just after one season is crazy, but I mean, he's proven to be consistently amazing at the dish. I mean, you know what you're going to get out of him every single year. So
Yeah. He's
I mean,
crazy.
he's a top 10. I feel like he should have been top 10 like last year, but guys like Bellinger and Yelich were having just insane seasons. So unfortunately, I had to probably push Freeman out. But
And
this was the chance he took it.
Yeah, you make an argument for Freddie here too. It's like if if the Braves are healthy with Soraka and Hamels, I mean, not only is he walking away with an MVP this year, they might freaking win a ring. So I think he's now entering that territory, and I hate to put this on him, but he's entering Clayton Kershaw territory. I mean, he's been there a bunch of times, and he needs to be the guy there now. And I think that's the last hump that he needs to hurdle over before he, because like if he does that, he's solidified into the Hall of Fame, if not already. So, yeah, I think he's great in there. I think he's finally getting the respect he deserves for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, I really hope I mean, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought right now. But yeah, I mean, to put him in Kershaw territory, I think is a little unfair. I mean, it's weird. I mean, because Kershaw has choked his games in the postseason for sure, but he's also been a little cheated by the Astros, and sometimes he has really good outings, but then Dave Roberts either leaves him in for too long, or maybe brings him at the wrong time, and then the reliever comes in and just shits the bed or something. But to say Freeman has choked or been cheated is, I don't know. It's a little weird for me to say. I mean, he hasn't, he's not like a MVP in the postseason yet, but I mean, he's proven that he can show up when he needs to.
Yeah, I agree with that. So at number four, finally seeing him on my list is I have Garrett Cole. I just think like I said, I have him as a top three pitcher in the game. He's just completely dominant, right-handed, 100-mile-an-hour ish guy. Plays in arguably the hardest, division offensively. Probably not anymore. But I think he's the guy that I'd want out there. I don't know who else the only other guy I'd rather have out there is the guy I have ahead of him. But um, Yankees is a huge pickup. I'd say from his standpoint, if I knew what I knew now, and I know it's only been a year, if I was Garrett Cole, I think I would have rethought going to New York. New York hasn't really had great success with their pitchers since CC came over. So like that's really brutal. And like to bring over this guy who's kind of just reinvented himself in Houston, who's known for having good pitching coaching, and then comes to this place that's known for not having good pitching coaching is pretty brutal. Not to mention, I think that like Stanton and Judge have proven that they can't be healthy, and their farm system's pretty weak. So I think he's in for a long haul over there. But nonetheless, if they aren't, it's going to be because of him. He's going to have to lead that team, but I think he can, and that's why I have him at 4.
Yeah. So my number 4 guy, I definitely think I put him too high, but my 4, 5, and 6 guys on this list, I feel like I could just interchange them any way I wanted, and I would have been fine with it. So this might sound a little biased, but I had number 4. I put Anthony Rendon. I know for you, I think he was number 6.
Yeah.
But I feel weird putting him at 4, but again, with Bellinger and Yelich kind of having down years, I thought this was, if there was any time for him to be a top 4 or 5 player, it was now. But this dude just racks up WAR like it's nothing, and and the arguments I made earlier. I mean, he hits, he plays above average defense in my book, and that's the guy I want hitting after Trout for sure.
See, it's crazy with him too because he kind of falls into that category, kind of like Trout, where if Rendon was just like a little bit more in like the public's face, I don't think anyone would even question him being at 4, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's kind of how baseball analysts work sometimes. They'll overlook him because of the fact that he's like a low key mellow guy.
Yeah.
But I think, if that's why the Angels got him. So like if the Angels are to have success moving forward, it has to be him and Trout leading the way. And you can't go wrong with that guy. I mean, he's better than any offseason acquisition that's going to happen this year. And then you can make the argument that last year, if you're just talking about strictly free agent signings, that between him and Garrett Cole was the way to go. And even even next year with all the shortstops available, I still think that I'd probably rather have Rendon than all of those guys. So the Angels hit a home run with that. And I can see him being there. And so now I think there's a damn good chance that the rest of our list is the same.
Yep, I agree with that.
So at number 3, I have Jacob deGrom.
Yep, same.
Yeah. So I mean, he goes kind of without saying. Like, if he doesn't get hurt this year, he probably wins it this year too, maybe. So 3 in a row, ERA plus of 188. ERA plus works just like OPS plus, so that means 100 points above average, which is ridiculous. WHIP over the last 3 years under 1. Like it's crazy that he doesn't get talked about more, to be honest. I know he gets talked about a lot, but
yeah.
I can't believe they don't ride this guy like they ride Mookie and like they ride Trout.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he's the game's best pitcher, and it's not really a debate at this point. The only dude that can really give him a run for his money is Garrett Cole. I think we're seeing Shane Bieber on the rise, but I'd give him another year or 2 before I can put him in that conversation. But I mean, yeah, DeGrom just flat out best pitcher in the game. I don't know if he's not being talked about as much because he wasn't signing that $300 million contract like he should have gotten, or I don't know, maybe he's already in his 30s. But what I find most fascinating about DeGrom, and I don't know how he does this, is that he is still getting better. I don't know how he's doing it. This dude's fastball, I feel like, goes up 1 every year. I mean, he's probably touching 103 for all I know next year. His slider is going to be like in the 97 range. Like, who knows what this dude's going to do? And
he's not even young. Like exactly. he's over, he's like the same age as Kershaw. He's like 30 to going on to age 31. He's a late bloomer, though. I don't think he made his debut until he was 27. So it's like it's crazy to see really how good he's gotten so fast. Like, because in today's day and age, like, you don't have these guys that come in and dominate, that break into the league at 27 years old. Like today's game, you're up by 23, 24 at the latest. And so he comes in late, and he's clear cut. He's one of the main reasons that for the last, I think, freaking 5 years, I've been saying that the Mets have a chance to win, because they always have a good rotation and it always crashes and burns.
Right.
on everyone who isn't Jacob DeGrom. So yeah, we'll see
Right.
what happens this year with the new ownership, but I mean he could be number 2 on the list if they win, if he finally can like get some people around him. But yeah, so moving to 2 again, pretty sure this is the same. I have Mookie Betts.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what I love about, and I'm assuming, I think we can all assume who number 1 is. So I guess we'll just talk about both of them now.
Yeah.
Trout and Mookie. So like if you're, I don't know, I'm just gonna use like a hotel analogy. Like Trout's on like floor like 500, Mookie's on floor like I don't know, like 420 or something, and then there's like a huge gap, and then there's everyone else. That's
Yeah.
like the levels these two dudes are on is just absolutely insane. But Mookie is, I was a little nervous when he joined the Dodgers. Not because the Dodgers were gonna be good, that was just a given. But I thought the Dodgers were gonna get the Angels curse and sign this dude till he's like 40, and then pull a Pujols or something. But
Yeah.
he did what he was supposed to do. The dude's an insane right fielder. He's a better defender than Trout. I don't care if he plays right field and Trout plays center. Mookie is just a better defender. He's got the arm. He's I don't know. I don't know who's quicker, but I feel like I guess the better way to put it is Mookie's got the better agility. Like he takes the better routes in the
Yeah.
outfield. The bat, I think Trout's got the better bat,
Oh
but
yeah, for sure.
Mookie has surely shown flashes of. I mean, if there's anyone's going to catch Trout, it's Mookie. But he's got a couple MVP seasons ahead of him before he's going to do that. But I mean, he's your all around guy. He's your 5 tool player. He can do everything. He's going to steal bases. He's going to rob home runs. I mean, basically did in the World Series. I mean, there's nothing he can't do. Bowl
Yeah.
300 if you want him to. I mean, he does everything.
Yeah. So the thing that's crazy is I obviously still have Trout at 1, but I think this was like the first year where I was like, damn, like maybe this is the last time somebody does this with Trout being number 1. And that's obviously no knock on him, but I'm just looking at these 3 guys that I have in the top 3, and Mookie and DeGrom have a higher WAR over the last 3 years on average than Trout. It's not by a lot. Jacob DeGrom's is 6.7. Mookie's is 6.97, and then Trout's is 6.67. So it's really close, and it's getting to the point where I still, like I said, I'm on Mike Trout. But if someone really wanted to sit there and make the argument that they thought Mookie was better, I would have a hard time completely shutting that down for other things. Obviously, I know he's got the MVP in 18. He actually beat out Trout that year, which kind of, I mean, I don't think it affects the 1 and 2 too much, but it's just like, 1 ring is one thing, and now you have 2, and then you have a guy who's really struggled to even get there. Like, and now when you have the WAR numbers this close, and you have like the numbers on average are starting to become closer, it's not crazy to think that that 1 spot for Trout is coming to an end here in the next year or so. But I mean, he's still going to be in the top 10 list forever.
Right.
But it's I don't know. It's starting to get interesting, but I really think I think that just it could be a thing. Like I really think now, like the Dodgers, they win 1 World Series, it kind of gives the monkey off the back. They can play a little less loose. I think the Angels just need to do that with the postseason. I think they need to get in there, and I really think once they do that, they'll see like, oh well, like we are good, and we can go in and we can make things happen. I think the offseason is really big for them. I think this is kind of shifting. We kind of finished the top 10. We can get into like the free agent side of things now and just this topic. But if you're an Angels fan and Artie doesn't go out and get Trevor Bauer this year or bolster the bullpen, how do you stand behind him as a fan?
That's funny you asked that because I don't. I don't stand behind him at all.
Perfect.
I'm an Angels fan, and I hate the Angels more than Dodger fans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I don't even. The players, look, there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
This dude, okay. I could have like a whole hour discussion about this, but I'll try to keep it short. Something unique about Arte is actually just the Angels in general. If you look up, you could probably look this up on like any team's website, like who the owner is, who the general manager is, like just kind of like the employee list. like, and they'll be their names. So you look at like a team like the Dodgers, it'll be, the owner, blah, 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 sales, marketing people. And then you'll see a thing at the bottom. It'll say baseball operations. So they have that little branch and it'll say like 20 or 30 people. And then you'll see something like that for the Rays and the Yankees and even the Cardinals. If you go to the Angels, I don't know, wherever you find this information, if you go to the Angels and look at their employee, listing thing,
Yeah.
you'll see Arte at the top, and then you'll see like 6 or 7 people listed under marketing and sales, which makes sense. I mean, they're like top 6 in payroll every year. Their attendance is amazingly good every single year, despite what they're outputting every year. But what makes this so frustrating is when you look, there's no such thing that says baseball operations. It's just not a thing for whatever reason. Maybe it is a thing and it's just not as public, but you can just tell that Arte is treating this like a business and not like a baseball team. And that's what just frustrates the heck out of me. I want him. I mean, this offseason is going to be my last straw. So, I mean, he doesn't have to sign Bauer, but if he doesn't, I better see some improvements in the rotation one way or another and a damn good bullpen.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of, obviously a good lineup is super fun and all, but we just saw it in this World Series. Pitching matters. It really does matter. And not just one pitcher, not even just 2. You're going to need middle at least like 3 solid top of the rotation guys if you're going to want to go somewhere. Yeah. Now, as an Angel fan, I'll settle for just a playoff appearance, but and I think Bauer can get us there if we land him. But yeah, I mean, Arte just I have a hard time standing behind him. And the poor GM Billy Epler, who was just fired. I mean, I'm not saying he was perfect. He definitely made mistakes, but Arte gets in his own way. I mean, I know the trade that would have happened, Jock Peterson and Ross Stripling for Luis Renifo. I was stoked. I was so stoked. I was like, wow, that's kind of a steal.
Yeah.
And he nixed it. He stopped the trade purely because the Dodgers were taking too long, or not the Dodgers, but whoever was in charge of the physical for Gratterall, whatever business was, it was just taking too long. So that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because if you look at just kind of what it ended up happening with the Angels, I know they were kind of out of it, coming the last week, even though like they weren't mathematically eliminated. But when you don't make the playoffs by like, what was it, like 3 games or something so small like that, you ask yourself like, well, damn, like if we got Ross pitching 12 starts and are coming out of the bullpen and we got Jock starting 50 games, like, are we going to win 3 games more? Probably, so it gets, it's hard with that. I mean, I will say one thing, the way that you feel about the Angels, I wish that more people would feel that way about their teams instead of being mad at the production that they're not getting on the field. Like, we're running into another issue right now this year with Lindor. It's like the Indians are seriously going to trade that guy. On top of how they've already traded Clevenger, they've already traded Shane Bieber, they've already traded Trevor Bauer. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Do you mean Kluber? Kluber. Because Bieber's still on.
Sorry, not Bieber, Kluber. It's like, damn, like, what do you do? And then you have other teams. It's like, you're the Rays. You make a bonehead move as a manager that loses you maybe a game, maybe a series, and then you don't sign back your 3rd best pitcher. Like, what does that tell your fans? Like, we're not ready we don't want to go for it again. So that's like extremely frustrating. I understand there's the losses, but when you're a team that's, top 10 in payroll, like the Angels are, like the Dodgers are, like these teams that claim they aren't big market teams are, and you don't go out and get your guys or try to win every year, that is who to be mad at, is the front office. It's the people putting the team together. It's the guys from years past who traded these dudes away. Like, that's where the issue is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine being an Indians fan is tough. I mean, that team is just, that organization is just a pitching factory. I feel like every time they trade someone like Kluber or Clevenger, some dude like Tristan McKenzie comes along. Okay, what is this? Like, Shane Bieber's now going to be like the best pitcher in baseball pretty soon. Like, what is this? And
it's crazy.
I will admit, I mean, they're trading away guys like Clevenger and Kluber and Bauer, but but at the same time, they're also lucking out. Kluber is, a huge question mark. Who knows if that guy ever gets back to what he
Yeah.
was. And Clevenger is now undergoing his second Tommy John surgery, which are actually I'm not sure if it's a second Tommy John, but it's a second like big
Arm
surgery in
surgery.
his
Yeah.
arm,
And then on
and
top of
that's
it, you have Bauer. Bauer's got, although coming off of Cy Young, and I like his work ethic, I like what he's about. I really like Trevor Bauer, but I mean, his career ERA is and I haven't updated this, but last I checked, it's in the fours. And I know ERA is and everything, but it's like he's kind of had the little Cody Bellinger curse, kind of the good year, bad year, good year, bad year. So if that lines up, he could easily go out there and struggle again, sign a big contract, a lot of money. Like he's the kind of guy that I don't know if he lets that get to his head, but he's for sure aware of like what expectations would be of him. Like he's the number one sought after free agent in this free agent class, maybe. I mean, it's him or Real
I would have to.
Muto. Like it's got to be one of those guys. So yeah, it's crazy. This offseason, I think, is going to be really interesting. I think that you have teams, big market guys that are kind of like just, they have some leeway on their payroll now because the scariest thing, and I know it's like kind of sounds biased as me being a Dodger fan, but if the Dodgers want to go out and just seal like 3 of the next 5, they can just do it. They just go and they sign Brad Hand, they sign Liam Hendricks, they sign Blake Trinan, they get these bullpen arms, and like, do they even need Turner? Like, I don't know. Like, what's his contract potentially look like? And then, I mean, I'm sure you've seen these the potential Arenado trade rumors.
Yeah, I mean, y'all need to chill with this Arenado and Bauer stuff. Like save some wins for everyone else. Like, holy smokes.
Well, it's like, and the thing too is you listen to the thing. Like, I've heard and read a lot about like where the Rockies are at, and they got absolutely
Yeah,
destroyed with COVID. Like, just didn't have any revenue, so they're thinking that they pretty much are going to have to let Arenado walk for almost nothing because they gotta freaking, they gotta uh get their money back. Like they gotta like
right,
fill in the gaps, and like they can't let him walk like the freaking Nationals did with Harper. So
right.
like they gotta trade him, and it's crazy. It's I don't even know though. Like who do you even put in that makes that deal fair?
I,
Like
I
what even? Yeah, like I don't know. So that would be just nuts. I will say that if it's gonna take like a big piece, I am okay, and this might be surprised, but I'm willing to give up on Lux for him. But
really,
but um, if it's any of the pitchers, any of the big 3 guys, the Gonsolin, the Dustin May, or Josiah Gray in the minors, I just re-sign Turner. Just re-sign him for freaking 10, 12 mil a year, and keep those dudes, because like it's obvious that the pitching's like a big deal right now. I mean, those guys are going to be worth crazy amounts potentially. So
yeah. I'm intrigued about what the Dodgers will do because I mean, who is your current second baseman? You got Secret Short. Who is your second baseman? Is it Kike, who's also a free agent, or was it
Kike's a
Kike?
free agent, so you had Chris Taylor, who pretty much spent a good amount of the time there. But there's
Okay.
like minor leaguers that could come in. Like that's the thing too, is just like where do you want to fill your money and like where do you want to invest? Because like
Right.
the Dodgers have Edwin Rios and he can play third. And the Dodgers, if they don't trade Lux, they have Lux and he can play second. And I can tell you right now that they're gonna try that. Like they're gonna give him another shot. He's gonna be in the conversation again for that. So yeah, no, it's a crazy spot to be in. Especially because you look at the teams, and now the biggest team that scares me is the Braves again. So other than
Right.
that, though, everyone's got pretty much worse. So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, it's crazy. I will say one thing: the Padres this year. I know they lose Clevenger, but obviously I'm gonna predict that Mackenzie Gore is making an appearance at some point this year. And if Paddock's even
Right.
remotely better than he was last, I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking a crazy lineup or a crazy pitching rotation even without Clevenger. And then in 2022, things can start getting really interesting if all those guys are healthy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. You have anything else you want to bring up? Talk about?
I guess while we're on the Padres, I'll just give my 2 cents. I mean, I mean, where did this Lamet guy come from? I'm not very, informed of like where their prospects ranked and all that, but holy smokes, Lamet is just a stud. So, but the thing that worries me with him, I feel like he's gonna be one of those injury-prone guys,
Yeah,
and this Padres team for the next few years, they're gonna be good for a while, but for the next few years, I think they're gonna live and die by their starting rotation. I mean,
sure.
whether it's injuries or Paddock just, I don't I don't know what happened to that dude. But I'll say one thing: I'm not very high on him anymore.
Yeah.
If there's a way to trade him, I think they should. I don't even know if that's possible. But I mean, if they're guys like Lamet, Gore, Clevenger when he comes back, if they can stay healthy, that team is lethal, very
Yeah.
lethal.
The thing that's scary the most about that team is, and I'm glad you brought up the injury thing, is you can go down the line with their team and their injuries. You got
Mm-hmm.
Clevenger, you got Lamet, and then I know he's a free agent now, but last year, I mean, you lose Kirby Yates, who like going into the season might have been the best, one of, if not the best relievers in the game. Then you got Eric Hosmer, who spends a whole bunch of time on the DL that year, or last year. You got Tommy Pham, spends a bunch of time. You got a guy like Will Myers, who's been hurt in the past. Like you got a guy like Tatis, who spent a lot of 2019 on the IL. It's like that you can make an argument that even though Lamet and Clevenger were hurt last year, that could end up being their best shot at winning a World Series, or it even made like because like the injuries the bug that they're hit with, like obviously Clevenger's out a whole year. Then you got to take a gamble on a rookie. Then you got to hope Paddock gets better. You got to hope Lamet's back to his full self. And then, Machado, he was actually a guy when I was making our top 10 list who I was like, oh, like he might be like a just miss guy. And I run his numbers. Like he's at like a
Right.
2.6 WAR over the last 3 years. Like he's not even in the freaking conversation. Like Max Muncy's better than he is. So like you're
Yeah.
you're you're banking on him, and then like I don't know, man. They're kind of scared. Like you think Cronenworth's going to really be that good again? So like they're a interesting team that because my rule of thumb with baseball that I try to do is I give someone it's a year and a half of consistency at whatever they are, good or bad, and that pretty much lets me put my mark on them at what I think. So that's for a reason why, as a Dodger fan personally, I've never really been able to buy into Cody Bellinger because of the off and on. Even in 2019 when he batted 400 first 2 months and then dips down. So that's kind of an interesting spot for all those guys on the Padres because realistically, none of them have really done it for a long period of time recently. So
Right.
like they have a high ceiling, but their floor, like you're talking about like back in the day when like they traded Grandal for Kemp, and then they went out and then they get James Shields, and then they go out and they get like what was it, Justin Upton and Craig Kimbrell, and then what do? They just shit themselves. And like I don't
Yeah.
think this is that dramatic. Those guys have higher like these dudes have higher ceilings than that, but they're in no way like that they could easily just crash and burn.
Yeah. The possibility is definitely there, and if it does happen, it's gonna be mostly through injuries, and
Yeah.
not even that. Yeah, lots of question marks. I mean, we still have yet to see Tatis play a full year. He probably would have this year, but I want to see him play a full year. I want to see what he's really about in the long run.
Yeah. But all right, Evan. I think we're good here on that. That was good. That's fun. Like I'll think of other topics and stuff for us to do, and then like we can try to make this a relatively more regular thing.
Thanks for giving us a listen, bros. Smash that like button. Subscribe to never miss a podcast of the Average Bros. And with that, good night and good gambling.